All right, good afternoon. It is 5 o'clock and we're going to get started on our webinar. Um, Thank you for joining us today to hear for your guide to Florida long-term care Medicaid. My name is Rep. DeLoach, estate planning and board certified elder law attorney at the fabulous law firm of DeLoach, Hofstra, and Cabonis here in Seminole. And we're glad to get started, take our time and go through the webinar today. So what I always start off with this is what most people will think about as they age. And so I think about my hope as I age, and I haven't had too many people disagree with this, but this is kind of what I think about myself. I'm turning 50 this year. So my hope as I age is I want to live a nice, long, healthy life. I want to stay at home and live as independently as I can for as long as I can. And then I want to not wake up one morning. So that's the goals. I want to live a nice, long, healthy life. I want to stay home as I age, and then just fall asleep one night and not wake up in the morning. And really, mostly, I want to skip the downhill slide that comes with aging. And the reality is that's what I want. That's what my, families want. That's what the elder wants. That really is mostly what we all want. I had a client last week that very interestingly said there's an Irish proverb is may you live long and may you die fast. I thought that was pretty good too. But when we think about this and what we're going through, and you may be here thinking about yourself or thinking about your loved one, you, me, all of us want to live a nice, long, healthy life. We want to live as independently as we can, as long as we can, and then fall asleep and not wake up one morning. But basically just skip the downhill effect of aging, dealing with dementia, dealing with falls. We broke a hip, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, just everything that comes along with it. It's not necessarily pleasant to go through. Most of us end up doing that. But that's just kind of what I think about in the context of this presentation is my hope, your hope. It's really what we all want. But so with today's seminar is we're going to just go through our agenda real quick is we're going to talk about what is long-term care, who will need long-term care, how much will long-term care cost, using Medicaid to pay for long-term care, of course, the title of our seminar, VA benefits and long-term care, the long-term care Medicaid asset protection planning. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to have a short Q&A in the end. So you're able to, at the end, type your questions into the Q&A session on your on the webinar format here. And I'm glad to take our time and answer any questions and see what we can do to, help clarify anything that I didn't cover along the way. This presentation is going to last about an hour or so, just to take our time. But if you see anything that come up, maybe I didn't clarify it, and I'm glad to come back to it and kind of answer any questions that comes up. So why do I know these things? What do I know about these things? Is I've been practicing law for 24 years. I can't believe it, almost 25 years of practicing law. I'm a board certified specialist by the Florida Bar. So once you pass the bar for the first time, which I did, of course, and then after practicing law for 5 years, you can take a second bar exam. And that second bar exam is a board certification specialty exam where I can now consider myself an expert or a specialist in elder law. So I can hold myself out less than 2% of practicing attorneys become board certified. And I'm one of the board certified attorneys in elder law in the state of Florida. Our law firm has completed thousands of Medicaid applications successfully, helped out many people along the way. We have a large team to help our clients deal with the legal aspects of the aging process. And last but not least, I'm a part of DeLoach, Hofstra, and Cabonis, PA. My father started the law firm back in 1976. He is 85. He's still doing well. And I'm just glad to be a proud tradition, a part of our law firm and helping people out in many different ways for almost 50 years now. So jumping right in, what is long-term care? Long-term care is effectively, again, we all want to stay as independent as we can as long as we can. But as we age, we probably need some type of long-term care. And long-term care is needing assistance, by definition, is needing assistance with the activities of daily living. And the activities of daily living, there are 6 activities of daily living: eating, dressing, bathing, grooming, toileting, transferring, continence. So there's generally 5 to 6 activities of daily living. And when you need help with 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, in the industry we call them the ADLs, then generally you need help with long-term care. So if you need help with best dressing and bathing, or eating, or toileting, or whatever those different things, and as we age or go through the disease process, we're probably going to need some type of assistance with our activities of daily living. And that is, of course, these are the activities of daily living. Generally speaking, needing to help with 2 of the 6 ADLs is kind of the definition of long-term care. But also there are people that if you have a cognitive impairment and they're not able to be in a safe environment alone, so you have Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, then if you have that type of cognitive impairment, then in effect, you may be able to do all of your activities of daily living yourself, but if you're unable to be alone by yourself at home in a home-like environment, maybe you would leave the stove on, or maybe you're even a wander risk, then having some form of cognitive impairment also is needing some type of long-term care. So that's what long-term care is. And we think about it as, will you need long-term care? And we don't know that necessarily the answer to that, but we do know the statistics. And roughly 73% of all people over age 65 are going to need some form of long-term care in their lifetime. So roughly 3 out of 4 people need some form of long-term care during their lifetime, or 3 out of 4 people over age 65 need some form of long-term care. The average length of long-term care is roughly 3 years. So for those who need long-term care before they pass away, then they're going to need long-term care for roughly 3 years. 20% of the people that need long-term care are going to need long-term care for over 5 years. I'm just dealing with a client whose mother passed away, and the client had hired us back in 2017 to help their parents out, and it had been over 6 years that mom had been dealing with assisted living, nursing home, and other type of issues. So roughly 20% of people are going to need it over 5 years. Another statistic that's maybe a little bit depressing, but it is what it is 50% of people over age 80 develop some form of dementia before they pass away. So as we get older, our chances of some type of dementia or cognitive impairment rises. Just biological factors alone. It's roughly half of us over age 80 or develop some form of dementia before we pass away. So will you need long-term care? We don't know, but the odds are pretty good that you're going to need some form of long-term care before you die. And if you do need long-term care, the average length of long-term care is around 3 years. So what does long-term care cost? Now, if you're here and attending the seminar, then you're probably going to know, of course, long-term care is fairly going to be expensive. And long-term care itself is home health. So as we age, we need, we want to maintain our own independence, and we want to stay at home as long as we can. But the reality is home health care can be very expensive. It can easily be $30+ an hour. I've got a family member right now who needs 24/7 care. She is bedbound, and it's costing over $20,000 per month to keep her home with home health care aides. So it's very expensive. So home health care, as we already can imagine, it can be very expensive. It's just in my own family's example. And there's an assisted living facility. And assisted living facility probably ranges around $3,000 to $6,000 a month. So this is going to be a non-dementia care facility, but roughly $3,000 to $6,000 per month. A dementia care assisted living facility, which is going to be a memory unit and secured dementia care, is probably going to be about $4,000 to $8,000 a month. You can find cheaper. You're probably not going to find any more expensive, but $4,000 to $8,000 per month. And then if you're going to need what we call the nursing home, rehab, or the skilled nursing facility, then that's going to be roughly $10,000 to $12,000 per month. So of course, the more help you need, the more expensive it's going to get. Long-term care in the community, I'm going to mention that. So if you're not safe at home or you cannot afford private pay at home, you may need community placement. So community placement, the assisted living facility We say that's fairly pricey. But sometimes people say, what is an assisted living facility? And we roughly describe it like your own private apartment. They provide food, medication management, and some assistance with the activities of daily living. So someone who is relatively independent to a large extent can get out of bed by themselves, but might need help with laundry, might need help with maybe showering every once in a while, but they can have their food prepared. So that's really an assisted living facility. They're nice places, and you can generally have your own private apartment. It can be again $3,000 to $6,000 per month or so. You're mostly able to get out of bed and not medically fragile is kind of the dividing line of what is an assisted living facility. Now, next is the memory care assisted living facility. And sometimes people say, my dad's in a memory care facility. Is that a nursing home? No, that's generally an assisted living facility. So memory care assisted living facility for those who may be exit seeking or need more help than a regular assisted living facility. And typically a memory care assisted living facility is going to be more expensive, of course, but it's going to be someone who is maybe fairly mobile, but it could be exit seeking. And then all the staff in a memory care assisted living facility are generally going to be having trained in dementia care. So it's just a specialist assisted living facility unit. And again, the price is roughly probably $4,000 to $8,000 per month. And then a nursing home, also known as a skilled nursing facility, also known as a rehab facility to a large extent. It's a large long-term care facility, going to be very expensive. And it's going to be for those who are medically fragile, require 24/7 nursing, require a two-person lift to get out of bed, and more. So, when people get involved with this and they're trying to figure out, hey, where is mom or dad going to get some help and what's it going to look like, what's it going to cost? And this is just a little bit of breakdown, the difference between assisted living facility, memory care facility, and a nursing home. So if you've never gone through this is just a little bit of background and some primer. So the next question is does Medicare pay for long-term care? So many maybe out here, but maybe looking at this, does Medicare pay for long-term care? And the basic answer is no. Medicare does not pay for long-term care. Medicare is health insurance, and health insurance essentially pays for doctors, it pays for hospitals, it pays for drugs, it pays for a lot of things, but Medicare itself is health insurance and it's not long-term care, does not pay for long-term care. Where people get confused, though, is Medicare does pay for rehabilitative care. And this is where people enter the long-term care system, enter the long-term care maze. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But essentially, mom, dad, or what have you are living at home. They're generally going to go downhill, and something happens where they have a fall, they have a stroke, they end up having a 3-day hospital stay usually. And then Medicare or their health insurance is going to pay for rehabilitative care that helps get someone stronger. And it pays for up to 100 days of rehab in a skilled nursing facility. But what happens really is that you're going to get stronger, most likely well before the 100 days of rehab. So Medicare does not pay for long-term care. What it pays for is rehab in a skilled nursing facility. But in effect, a skilled nursing facility is a rehab facility, which really is a nursing home for the most part. And so it has some paying for rehab facilities, which may also turn into a long-term care nursing home. But the ability for Medicare to pay for that is up to 100 days, and it almost no one ever gets 100 days because they're going to get stronger. And they're going to get as strong as they possibly can through the rehab well before the 100-day period ends. Would also mention that there are co-pays for the days after 2100. It's about $200 a day. So it's also going to get fairly expensive. So even though Medicare may pay for it, there's a $200 a day copay. Now you may also have a Medicare GAP program, a Medigap program that can also pay that $200 a day copay. But also if you have a HMO or a PPO, the rule is going to be similar, but they're not going to be quite the same as what we're illustrating here. But either way, your health insurance does not pay for long-term care. So the next question then is, what are the ways to pay for long-term care? And effectively, how do you pay for long-term care? Of course, self-pay. There's many of us, not many of us, but there are a few of us who have the ability to self-pay for all long-term care. So you have the ability to pay with your own money, of course. And there are people that have financial or insurance products, which we're going to go into some detail on in a little bit, but essentially have self-pay with your own money and or with long-term care insurance. There are government benefits, of course, VA benefits and Medicaid benefits. And then there's a combination of all those different things. In certain scenarios, you've got your own money, you've got VA benefits, you've got long-term care. So sometimes there's a combination of all those things and how to pay for long-term care, which you've already said can get fairly expensive. So the next question is, does Medicaid pay for long-term care? Does Medicaid pay for long-term care? And the basic answer to this is maybe. So effectively is this, is you, me, mom, dad, whoever it is, if we have a terrible downturn in health and say we have a stroke, we have a broken hip, we have a car accident, and we have to be in the nursing home. And if we run out of money and we qualify financially, which we're going to qualify financial in a little bit, but if you run out of money and you're in the nursing home, essentially Medicaid is going to pay for your care. So if you end up in the nursing home and you run out of money, you qualify financially, Medicaid for the most part is going to be there in the nursing home. It's going to pay for a semi-private room only, and it is subject to availability. Not all nursing homes accept Medicaid. But I am in Pinellas County. We are in Pinellas County, and every single nursing home in Pinellas County accepts Medicaid. But not all the facilities are actually going to have a bed available at the exact same time. And of course, frankly speaking, is the better facilities, the beds fill up sooner rather than later. So Medicaid is going to be there if you run out of money. So does Medicaid pay for long-term care? Yes, if you're in the nursing home. Now, the problem is no one ever wants to be in the nursing home. So, raise your hand if you ever want to be in the nursing home. And I'm going to show there's not going to be a single person that would raise their hand. So does Medicaid pay for your care in assisted living or in-home care? And the basic answer is maybe. So our system is really designed, if we end up in the nursing home, we don't want to kick grandma out on the street. We always want to have a bed available for grandma. But our government does not make that same guarantee if we want to get care in assisted living facility or in home. There are strict financial rules to access Medicaid, of course, and we're going to go through that. But if you have to get Medicaid, so again, Medicaid will pay for the nursing home, but it may pay for assisted living and in-home care. Also, I will mention this is Medicaid does not dictate where you get care, but the facility must accept Medicaid. So I'm going to talk about HCBS Medicaid, and essentially there's nursing home Medicaid, and then there's what is called home and community-based services Medicaid. And this is again for assisted living or for in-home care. And Medicaid is not only for the nursing home, Medicaid has the home and community-based services program, and it has the same financial requirements in any given event. And Medicaid will help pay for the assisted living facility, but the problem is probably provide a subsidy of around $1,500 per month. So the difficulty is that you could be in an assisted living facility that costs $7,000 per month, and Medicaid may only provide a $1,500 a month subsidy. So where's that other $5,500 going to come from? It can be difficult to figure that out. So if you have dementia and don't have a lot of money, for instance, then paying for a dementia care facility can be very difficult, because even if you get onto Medicaid, Medicaid is not going to pay for everything for every assisted living facility. It provides a roughly $1,500 a month subsidy for the facilities. It does provide in-home care available as well, but it's just not that extensive. So our system itself in Florida is we're really not geared towards getting care that much unless there's a caregiver at home. Medicaid can help the caregiver at home, but if you have dementia, then essentially Medicaid's not going to be very helpful to keep you at home because you may not be safe. It doesn't provide 24/7 care, it provides very little care for the most part. So Medicaid does help pay for care and outside of the nursing home. It's just more difficult. Also, there's a wait list to get HCBS Medicaid. What they do is the program it triages for health care before we get to the financial test as well. So, Medicaid may help pay for the assisted living facility, but its help is limited. and it may pay for help at home, but that also is limited. But even to get onto HCBS Medicaid, there's a wait list. So, and I can roughly say this, if you're in the nursing home, you're generally going to get on nursing home Medicaid. But if you're not in the nursing home, then there's a wait list and they triage the people taking the sickest people first. So assets in Medicaid. So if you want to get Medicaid, if the government is actually going to pay for your care in a long-term care facility or trying to get you onto long-term care Medicaid, we're going to talk about assets. And there's an asset test and there's an income test. And in order for Medicaid to help you out, there's an accountable asset limit of $156,000, roughly $156,000 for a married couple. So if one spouse is sick and in the nursing home, in order for to get that other spouse onto Medicaid, Medicaid caps the amount of countable assets the spouse are allowed to have at $156,000. And then they're only allowed $2,000, not much money at all for a single person in order for Medicaid to pay. Countable assets include almost anything really. It's going to be bank accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. The cash value of life insurance is going to be a countable asset. It's also include joint bank accounts with any family member. So sometimes people say, I'm a joint account owner of mom's bank account. Is half the money mine? And the basic answer is no. It's all going to be mom's money, at least for Medicaid purposes. Countable class assets, basically, as you said, include almost anything that you own. But there are some assets excluded from Medicaid. There's a home of up to $713,000 if you're single. If you're married, Medicaid doesn't care at all. You can have a home of any value, and you're allowed to own a car and a burial account, a few other miscellaneous exclusions. But if you want to get Medicaid to pay for your long-term care, then essentially then you're allowed to own X amount of dollars in assets, and it varies significantly whether you're married or whether you're a single person. And you're allowed to own a home if you're a single person. It's up to $713,000 in value. There's also, for Medicaid purposes, there's an income test. And from income, essentially it's this, it's that there's an income cap. And if your income exceeds $2,829 per month, then Medicaid is not going to help pay for your care, but legally there's a way around it. We generally refer to what's called a qualified income trust. So if your income exceeds the income cap 2829, then there's a legal way around that. Is generally through setting up a qualified income trust with a qualified elder law attorney. And that's for that's for any person who's trying to get on Medicaid, there's an income cap. Now, if there is a married couple and there's a spouse at home, in our world, we call that the community spouse. The community spouse, they have a income limit. They do not have an income limit at all. So the spouse that's sick and is in the nursing home, they have an income cap. But if there's a spouse at home, Medicaid does not care what the spouse at home's income is. It could be $10,000 per month, and their spouse who's sick in the nursing home could still get onto Medicaid. What we'll also say is, roughly speaking, IRAs are generally considered income for Medicaid purpose, and they're really not considered assets. There's a little bit detail here, but essentially IRAs, for the most part, do not appear in the asset column for Medicaid purposes. Really, IRAs for one case qualified plans. But if these assets are considered income and do not appear in the asset column for Medicaid purposes. Essentially, the patient responsibility is, if you are in the nursing home, it's very easy to describe it this way. If a single person is in the nursing home, then to get onto Medicaid, Medicaid basically says you have to pay all of your income to the nursing home. You get to keep $160 per month. So you get to keep $160 for your personal needs allowance. You can buy some clothing, pay for a cell phone, and pay for other personal items. But you get to keep $160 per month, and all the rest of your income goes to the nursing home. If you're married, it's a little bit more complicated. There's really a lot to be talk about that, and we could really go on for about an hour on that. But if you're married, then the spouse at home may be able to keep some of the sick spouse's income as well for their own personal needs. Medicaid and homestead, we've already described this, is that for Medicaid purposes, your home is protected for Medicaid no matter how long you live in the home. So mom living at home alone, she has a stroke, she goes to the nursing home and must stay there for the rest of the life. then her home, as long as it's worth less than $713,000, is protected from Medicaid, no matter how long she lives in the nursing home. And Medicaid cannot take it upon her death. And certainly there are some small exceptions to that rule, but Medicaid cannot take the home upon death. Some states do. When you sometimes read, I was just last year, there's an article in the New York Times, I believe, it was about how Medicaid takes the home upon people's passing. In Florida, Medicaid cannot do that. We have our homestead rights, and Medicaid does not trump our homestead rights in the state of Florida. But you're allowed to own your home for however long, and essentially can be preserved for heirs upon your death. We can say renting the home can be difficult or problematic, but it is possible with the right legal advice. We also say this as time is difficult. If you're a single person in the nursing home and all of your money must go to the nursing home, then the family must actually pick up the cost for the home. So it can be expensive over a longer period of time. Mom, again, has had a stroke. She's in the nursing home. Then the nursing home essentially gets paid all of her income minus $160. And if she has a home, or if she has, for instance, a condo, she's allowed to continue owning it, but the family's going to be having to pay for the cost of everything. Because again, all of mom's income is going to have to go to the nursing home as part of the patient responsibility. Gifting and Medicaid, most of us know this, but I'm going to review it, is most people that are here have probably heard of the 5-year Medicaid look-back period. But essentially, in order to get on the Medicaid, the key rule, besides all the other asset and income requirements, is you can't give your money away. So Medicaid has a 5-year look-back period, can't give your money away in order to get onto Medicaid. So assets cannot be given away within the 5-year look-back period, of course. And then also what people think about this is, aren't I allowed to give away $10,000 a year or $15,000 a year? It changes every year. It's indexed to inflation. Right now, it's $18,000 per year, but you're not allowed to give that money away anyway. So people say, oh, well, I can give money away to protect it from the nursing home. You cannot do that within 5 years. And the $18,000 a year annual exclusion is a gift tax issue. It's not a Medicaid issue. So do not give money away to protect assets unless you're outside the look-back period. We'll go into some more detail on this, but effectively is you can't give your money away to get onto Medicaid. We'll mention some veterans VA benefits. And, essentially we're not here just to talk about Medicaid, but we'll mention if those of us maybe here and say, hey, my husband or my wife is a veteran, or the surviving spouse of a veteran, then there could be veterans benefits. And essentially there's one program that we refer to as pension, also known as aid and attendance. And this is a program that provides a cash benefit of long-term care for veterans who qualify. And if or if you're the veteran or the surviving spouse of a wartime veteran, then if you had 90+ days of active duty service, 1 day of which is in a time of war, and you had a discharge that was other than dishonorable, then the VA may help you out. So again, if you're a wartime veteran and you had 90 days of active duty and you served one of which is in a time of war, then the VA may help out. And the program is essentially, we call it pension, also known as aid and attendance. But there's an asset limit of around, I think it's $150,000. They upped it recently. But essentially the VA also, like Medicaid, has an asset requirement that your income cannot exceed X amount of dollars. It doesn't matter whether you're single or married in this circumstance. But the program is based upon high ongoing medical needs. And it's very easy. How do you get high ongoing medical needs? What if you go to the assisted living facility? The assisted living facility is $5,000 per month. Your loved one's income is $3,000 per month. The VA can help pay for the difference and can be very good in paying for certain things. And the general range is roughly $2,300 per month for a married veteran and around $1,400 a month for the surviving spouse of a wartime veteran. And it's very good in helping pay for long-term care costs. So if your mom or dad is a veteran and they served in a time of war and whatnot, their assets are below the asset limit, then they may be able to get benefits to help pay. What we've roughly described as a VA benefits is really great at paying for assisted living care. And we say it's really great for assisted living, much more so because the nursing home is typically too expensive. $1,200 or $1,400 a month to help pay for a nursing home at $12 grand a month doesn't go very far. But what if you have someone that's in an assisted living facility at $5,000 per month? The VA can be very, very helpful in the right circumstances. And again, if you're looking at this program is called pension, and the highest level of pension is known as aid and attendance. It's a horribly named program, but it's if you need the aid and attendance of another human being to deal with the wants of nature. So again, if your loved one is trying to get care, you can look toward the VA to help pay for that as well. Now, crisis Medicaid planning, we describe as crisis Medicaid planning, is essentially, here's our typical example. And this is something we really see, 5 times a week. This is the reality. Is Mary is the name of our example, but it's anyone, it's Mary is age 90 and she's slowing down. She's probably slowing down mentally and physically, and she's needing more help at home. The reality is Mary, just like you and me, she wants to stay at home as she ages. She doesn't want to go to the nursing home. She wants to pass away quietly in her sleep. But Mary, this is not going to happen for Mary in our example because she falls and goes to the hospital. Now, 60% of the time people need long-term cares after a fall. This is no exception with Mary and the family in the situation. The family's trying to say, what do we do with mom? She's getting a little forgetful. She's slowing down. She doesn't want to leave the home. And in this situation, nature gave us the answer where she falls and goes to the hospital. And from the hospital, she spends 3 days in the hospital. Now she goes out to rehab. So this is a very common occurrence. And this is where we very often get the phone call, help, my mom is in rehab. What happens next? Now, if we already know this, but Medicare again pays for up to 100 days, or the HMO pays for up to 100 days, but it's very rare that again health insurance pays for rehab for that long. So what happens when rehab ends for Mary? So she fell, she broke a hip, she goes to the hospital, she got discharged to the rehab center, she's getting stronger. What happens when rehab ends? Essentially, she's not able to get any stronger. And there's generally 3 main choices here. Mary can go home and get home care. Mary can go to assisted living facility, or maybe she has to stay in the nursing home for long-term care. So these are our typical examples. And what we think about here with Mary is she probably was slowing down. Maybe she shouldn't have been home alone by herself anyway, just due to her advanced age, and she's getting forgetful. So now the family has to figure out what's going to happen next. And then how are we going to pay for it? So this is an example of how crisis Medicaid planning can be helpful. So Mary in long-term care. And in this specific example, Mary's health is deteriorated and she must stay in the nursing home, or maybe she could go out to the assisted living facility. And in this situation, Mary has a home worth less than $713,000, and maybe she's got about $80,000 in the bank. And what we know is that Mary's money will disappear to the nursing home if nothing is done. So her rehab is over now, and the nursing home says, congratulations, we're no longer paying Medicare, your insurance is no longer paying for your care, and now it's going to be $350 a day, and we want to get paid now for the next month of care. So we know that with Mary's money of $80,000, it's going to disappear exceedingly quickly if nothing is done. She's going to be broke in less than 7 months in her situation. Mary's got $80,000 in the bank, and this is a legal way that we can do to protect assets. What we know is we cannot give the money away because we're now within the 5-year look-back period, of course, but Mary's allowed to pay $70,000 to a caregiver in this situation. That is a legal payment for services. And then with that, the money effectively left her bank account. It was all documented to Medicaid through a specific thing we call a personal services contract. And this was not a gift, it's a legal payment for services that is available for Florida. Her assets are now going to be less than, it's going to be about $1,000 now. She's only allowed to have $2,000 in assets, and therefore Mary can get onto Medicaid right now. So Mary now legally gets Medicaid to pay for the nursing home and or maybe even pays for the assisted living facility. So this example of a crisis, and we think about this, is if we would have gone to Mary and said, Mary, give us all your money. Mary said, no, I don't want to give all my money. I want to keep control of my own money. And certainly we can't give the money away, but with the help of a good elder law attorney, And we know how to legally protect the money within the 5-year Medicaid look-back period. And again, this is in a crisis Medicaid planning scenario that can happen for a single person. Now, here's an example of Bill and Doris. This is an example of crisis Medicaid planning for a married couple. And Bill and Doris, both 88 years old, are living at home. Joint assets is around $300,000 in bank accounts and CDs, and the home of $400,000. But for our purposes, it doesn't even matter what the home is really worth. It could be worth $4 million. And that's not going to interfere with how we analyze the situation. Bill's income here is $3,000 per month from Social Security and pension, and Doris's income is $1,500 a month from Social Security. So they're doing okay, a monthly income around $4,500. But Doris is now getting dementia in our given example, and she falls and breaks a hip. And again, this is a very common scenario that you may be going through now. Maybe you've already gone through it, or you're concerned about what's going to happen next for your loved one. But in this situation, Doris falls and breaks a hip. And here we know what happens is we're trying to figure out what do we do to get Doris onto Medicaid. And their assets, again, are roughly $300,000. And Bill already knows. Bill's done this research, and he says, I've got $300,000 in assets, but we're only allowed to have $156,000 in order to get onto Medicaid. And so the assets are over the asset cap by really a lot, a little over $150,000. So Bill was told he could only have $156,000 to qualify Doris for Medicaid, which is right. And what we do know is we cannot now give the money away to protect it. Medicaid will not allow that. But the good thing is that Bill has a good attorney. And Bill knows that with a good elder law attorney, there are legal ways to protect the assets. And Bill is allowed to legally loan $150,000 to a trusted family member. Here it's a trusted son. And what we did is we legally converted an asset of $150,000 to income. And the conversion of an asset to income is not a gift. It's not a transfer of assets. It's a legal transaction. And this promissory note is done right now, even though Doris is in the nursing home, and we could get Doris onto Medicaid the month that we want to. So Doris could be on Medicaid in a month if that's what we really wanted to do. The promissory note has shifted the asset to income. It is not a gift. It's a legal way of protecting the assets. So Bill doesn't go broke. He's concerned about spending all of his money. He wants to make sure his wife gets good care, of course, but he's still concerned about the money disappearing to the nursing home at $12,000 per month. Now, this is one of many legal strategies that can happen with a good elder law attorney. And this is a specific example of what can happen with a married couple. This is not available for a single person. So one time a few years ago when I did the seminar, the family said, my mom's in the nursing home, we want to do the promissory note. The promissory note is not available for a single person. It's only available for a married couple. But essentially, the main thing that you need to know is whatever ends up happening for crisis Medicaid planning, a good elder law attorney legally knows how to protect the money, and it may be through a promissory note, it may be through other matters, but there are legal things that can be done to protect the assets, even within the 5-year look-back period. But what if Mary wants to stay home? We've already covered this a little bit, but Medicaid is not only helpful for the nursing home, but this is the easiest program to qualify for. But Medicaid, again, can help with in-home care and assisted living care. And again, the financial requirements are the same, but there's a wait list to get onto the program. So again, if you end up in the nursing home, Medicaid is generally going to be there. But if you want to get Medicaid at home or in an assisted living facility, there's a wait list to do. And that wait list, they triage people getting help. And again, if you're in the nursing home, they consider you already triaged, you're already sick. But if you're trying to get Medicaid at home, then there's a wait list. And again, Medicaid only provides a roughly $1,500 a month subsidy for the assisted living facility. And I will say this, an elder law attorney is very important. It can be very vital in any given event to help make sure your loved one gets the right care and their finances are maximized in the right situation. So we always say is having an attorney, an elder law attorney like our law firm in any given situation is going to be very important. So what about pre-planning for long-term care. And years ago, when I started giving this seminar, I noticed that there's a lot of people that they refer crisis issues, but also there are a lot of people that say, hey, I'm 70 years old, I'm 80 years old. What should I be doing now to prepare for my own care? So it's not necessarily that my wife is in a nursing home or my grandmother or my mom's now in the nursing home. I'm 80, I'm 70. What should I be doing to prepare for my own long-term care? Maybe I want to protect my assets for my kids, or I'm just concerned my wife is getting forgetful, my husband's getting forgetful. What can I do now? So we're talking about pre-planning for long-term care. And many who attend the seminar again are thinking about planning many years from now. So not just the crisis scenarios, but they're thinking maybe 5, 10 years down the road, maybe even further. So we're thinking, what should you do now to help have the best estate plan, preserve your care options, and protect assets for inheritance purposes? Maybe that's a goal, maybe that's a not. But again, what are we thinking about? What should you be doing now? And so basic estate plan. So the first step of making sure your family can protect assets, you can protect assets. The first thing you always do, step 1A, is basic estate planning. And your basic estate plan is a must. So for instance, you always do your trust, you do your will, you do your power of attorney, you do your living will, you do your designation of healthcare surrogate. Whatever it is, you always do your estate plan first. So you always do it with a good elder law attorney, and because a good elder law attorney knows that their estate planning documents can be relied upon later on to help protect assets. So you have a trust, you have a power of attorney, you have your estate plan in place, because we never tell when we're going to fall, we can never tell when we're going to get a dementia, we can never tell when we're going to have a stroke, where we may need long-term care. And what you do is your good estate plan can help preserve all of the planning options with your family. If you haven't done this, there's not a lot that can be done. So you always need a good elder law attorney to do your estate plan first. So again, if there's anyone here that's thinking about what should I be doing now to prepare for my long-term care, the first step you always do is do your basic estate planning. So after your basic estate plan is in place, you generally have two choices otherwise to prepare for your long-term care. So again, the first thing you do is you always do your estate plan. And again, you always do it with a good elder law attorney. But after your plan is in place, you really have two ways to prepare for long-term care. And the first one is gifting and irrevocable trust planning. And then the second option is financial pre-planning. So we're going to talk about, again, pre-planning for long-term care. So let's see. The first option of gift planning. And gift planning is gifting before the 5-year Medicaid look-back period starts. And generally speaking, we do probably, for the most part, prefer to do irrevocable trust planning instead of outright gift planning. So 5 years before you get sick, you can give assets to an irrevocable trust. The trust holds assets for your lifetime. It may pay you income for your lifetime, by the way, but upon your death, the children receive the assets income tax-free and get a step up in basis. And that's very important. But why do we do gift planning? We're really trying to do gift planning if you want to preserve assets as an inheritance for your children. There are people say, all my money's going to charity or like going to my nieces and nephews. Then if you're in that situation, you don't really need to care about gift planning. But if you're trying to preserve money for your heirs, then you can look at doing this in the 5-year Medicaid look-back period, generally speaking, done through an irrevocable trust. And here's an example of gift planning. Sally is age 80 and she's in great health. She is worth about $500,000 in the bank, stocks, etc. She has trustworthy children, so she's trying to preserve an inheritance for the kids, and she's now, at this point in her life, comfortable in giving up control of her assets. Here, we can create an irrevocable trust. Sally gives $400,000. Maybe she doesn't give all of her money to the trust, but she gives a lot of her money to the trust, and she retains a right to receive income from the trust for her lifetime. The money is held for her lifetime by her trusted son who's in charge of the funds, and the money goes to her children. Now, upon her death, the money can go to the children tax-free and get a step up in basis. So part of the planning that we do as a good elder law attorneys, we get the money out of her name for Medicaid purposes. You have to do this again 5 years in advance, but we do not get it out of her name for income tax purposes, so that upon her death, Any assets in the trust now go to the children as an inheritance, and they all get a step up in basis upon Sally's passing. And again, the assets are protected for 5 years from the nursing home and 3 years from VA. The VA, I didn't mention this, VA has a 3-year look back period. Again, Medicaid in Florida has a 5-year look back period. So this is not going to be something that everyone is going to want, but in the right situation, irrevocable trust planning for the right person in the right situation is something that you can recommend after your estate plan is done. Next thing is the financial planning. So again, instead of maybe not giving your money away, you can look at financial pre-planning. And financial planning instead of gift planning, but you retain control of your own money, you retain better choices for care, and there are government tax incentives. I'm not going to sell you a life insurance or long-term care insurance policy. But the main thing you need to know is that you can talk with the financial planner to learn more about long-term care insurance. And there's traditional long-term care insurance that may cost $5,000 or $6,000 a year, maybe even more. But there's also financial products such as annuities and life insurance policies that through the Pension Protection Act may be a good way to set some money aside for your future long-term care costs. And a good financial planner is going to walk you through that. So maybe instead of giving up your money and trying to give it control and get it out of your name, you could talk with a financial planner, and probably between ages 60 and 80 are going to consider financial pre-planning, set aside some of their own funds for their future care through the use of long-term care insurance products. And again, it's not just a product that you pay $5,000 or $6,000 a year for. You can set aside some of your own money for your future care and talk with a financial planner. So again, it's not all about giving up control of your money. Financial pre-planning can be helpful in the right situation. So meet your elder law attorneys. Of course, there's your fabulous presenter, attorney myself, Rep. DeLoach. There's also another attorney in our law firm, Michelle Leonzo. And we have 2 in-person offices to serve you. Our main office is here in Seminole, just outside of St. Petersburg, Florida. And we also have an office in Sun City Center across the bay. But we also offer a statewide representation. So essentially, you may be local here and looking to help out with your loved one or for yourself, but also we help out people all across the state. We have a wonderful website. We get a lot of business from across the state. No matter where you or your loved one live, we may be able to help you out via phone conferencing, Zoom, whatever it is, because Medicaid applies all across the state. It's not just a local situation. So we're able to help you out no matter where you live. So how can we help you? We can discuss long-term strategies that are best for you. We can do estate planning. And again, estate planning is prepared for the future. That's one of the main things that we can do today is to get your estate plan in order. We have a social worker on staff. We're a very unique law firm where we have a full-time care advocate on staff in the form of a social worker. So we help our families navigate not just the legal and financial issues of long-term care, but we have a true caregiver on staff who helps our loved ones and their families get long-term care in the right situation. That's what we do with care advocacy. And we're very unique and very proud of our law firm having a full-time social worker on staff. We do long-term care crisis planning, of course. And to hear from actual clients about their experience of working with us, we have a lot of amazing online reviews. We've helped out thousands of people over the years. We've helped out people in very tough and very difficult situations. We've got a lot of people that have given us very kind words online to say how much we've helped them out, and we're very proud of the work we've done. Me and my team, it's not just me. I've got a lot of wonderful people who help me out on a daily basis, but a lot of people have been very kind to give us their online reviews and how we've helped them out. So how this works. And what we do is we can schedule a 1-hour strategy session with myself or with attorney Michelle Leonzo, where we can do a Zoom telephone call or in person. And during our meeting, we will review your current estate plan, make sure that your documents are up to shape. We'll identify your concerns and assess your needs or desire to protect assets. Maybe you want to protect assets, maybe you don't. But what we're going to do is talk about your own needs and how that's going to affect your long term. Plus, we'll answer any questions you have about your own unique situation. No 2 situations are alike. No 2 people. No people have the right families or the right assets, or every situation is going to be different. We're glad to review your own situation with you and talk about yourself and how we can help you out. At the end of our time together, you'll know what legal documents you need, if any. You'll have a better understanding of the long-term care journey and what steps you need to take, and you'll know the exact amount of your investment in order to achieve your goals. Essentially, the key is this, is you're going to have peace of mind knowing that you took the correct steps to protect yourself and to protect your loved ones. So this is what's going to come at the end of our time together. So after our meeting, you'll decide if you want us to help you any further. We'll develop a plan with recommendations for any given situation that you're in. We'll prepare any legal documents and work to protect assets when appropriate and available. Most importantly, we'll walk you through this process from start to finish. So we're very proud of the work that we do to help our clients out. We're glad to have the opportunity to help you. So our gift to you, for those attending the seminar today, we'll give you my free ebook. I recently wrote and finished my 4th book now, Your Guide to Florida Long-Term Care Medicaid. And we're going to send that to you for those attending. And thank you for signing up. We're going to send you a free copy of my book to learn a lot more about what I went through and some other options. And we're glad to schedule an information gathering session with a member of our legal team. And we're also going to send you a link to this video recording, what you're watching right now. So if you said, my spouse should see this, or my sister should see this, or my friend is going through this, then we're going to send you a link to this video so you can watch it, and you can also rewatch it and share it with a loved one who you think we can learn something from this as well. And what we'll do is we will give you 50% off a 1-hour consultation with an attorney. So normally we charge $200 for our office consults, and we charge $100 for those attending this seminar today. So we'll give you $100 off, 50% off with this. And if you were to hire us, for instance, if you paid $100 for office consultation, then we're going to apply that fee to any future work that we end up doing. So if you pay us our office consultation fee, again, that fee is part of any further work that we end up doing should you want to hire us. So who is this for? Really, it's going to be for 2 groups of people. Those dealing with loved ones facing imminent long-term care. My mom is at a nursing home, my mom is at home, and maybe she needs assisted living Medicaid now. So it's dealing with loved ones facing imminent long-term care. And, really, when we get involved with this is the elder, mom or dad. They are always our client. So the elder is the people that we are trying to protect. So we must deal directly with the elder or with the elder's power of attorney. And why do we deal with the power of attorney? This is why it's important that you have a good power of attorney created by an elder law attorney, so then your family has the power to hire an attorney to protect assets later on. So we deal either directly with the elder or with the elder's power of attorney. But we also help people out with looking to pre-plan for their care. So if you're not likely to need long-term care within 5 years, but want to make sure you have explored all of your options, the key is to review your current estate plan and see what changes should be made now to prepare for your future actions. And if you did your documents with us, I always say this, if you did your documents with our law firm, then the reality is your documents are probably going to be pretty good. What we do as a good attorney, I see a lot of poor estate planning documents, and not all attorneys are created equal. Let's just be realistic, and not all attorney work is that good. So if you did your documents with us, you're probably going to be pretty set up. But if you did your documents with another law firm, it's definitely always good to get a second opinion from the experts. So what's the catch? And here's our wiggling fish here. What's the catch? But there's no catch, really. We're just glad to have the opportunity to help you out, to review your estate plan and see if there's anything we can do to help prepare for the future, because we know it's difficult. If you're dealing with this yourself, you're dealing with this for a loved one, it's very confusing and it's very difficult to navigate the system. So we don't have a catch here. We're just glad to have the opportunity to help you out. If you would like to schedule an appointment, then we're glad to go to chat with DHC, and you can schedule an appointment with us. You can send us an email, but again, we're gonna you can book your free information gathering section at chatwithdhc.com. But we're also going to email you as well, so you can also stay in touch. Remember, you'll know what estate planning documents you need when you've met with us. You'll know what actions you need to take now, if any, and you'll have peace of mind knowing that you and your loved ones will have better prepared for the future and the challenges of tomorrow. And I will say this, is we give a discount to our office conference fee, and it's only valid for the next 60 days. So if you'd like to take advantage of this and save $100 on our office consultation, please, this is only available for the next 60 days from watching the seminar. So we're going to give you the big thank you, but we're also going to open it up to the Q&A. And if you have any questions, then we've got the Q&A section on your screen, and I'm glad to answer any questions that that you may have. And I've got the first question is, if you are in a nursing home, can you still claim homestead exemption? Again, if you have any other questions, you're welcome to type in. I'm glad to answer any questions, but this is a good one. So the first question that I have come up is, if you're in a nursing home, can you still claim homestead exemption? The basic answer is yes. So the rule in the state of Florida is this, is if you had a home and if you had to leave your home for healthcare reasons, then you can still keep your homestead. Because the idea is this, is what if you could get better? Then the state of Florida says if you could get better, then you will always retain your homestead exemption, and then it will not affect it for taxation purposes. Now people say, well, geez, my mom's going to the nursing home. She's never going to come home. That doesn't matter. As long as the home is there and it's not rented out, then the home is going to be retaining its homestead exemption, and mom could be in the nursing home for 10 years, and that would not matter. That would not affect her homestead for any purpose whatsoever. But sometimes people say, is Medicaid going to take the home, or are they going to lose the homestead exemption? The basic answer is no. You could be in the nursing home for a very long time, and that does not affect your homestead. The next question is, what happens if you do give money within the 5-year look-back period? Are those who receive the gift required to pay it back? Same with an irrevocable trust. Are you just out of the cost, or what happens if you establish the trust? So there's a lot to this question. So the basic rules we've said is this, is you can't give money away within 5 years of the look-back period. So what if you do give money back? Or what if you do give money away and then you had a stroke in a year or 2 years or something like that? We're going to say we're going to just put it mildly, that's going to be problematic. And, that's just problematic. And if you do try to give money away, there are methods and there are legal ways to cure it. But essentially, you've got to trust that whoever give the money away may give the money back. I had a phone call last week, and it was, mom's getting elderly. She wants to give money away. She wants to give money away to the grandkids. And I said, well, geez, if you're giving money to the grandkids, they're all in their 20s. If you give them money, they're going to spend it. And if they spend it and cannot give the money back, that is very problematic. So what the plan you're trying to do is you're trying to do it 5 years before you get sick. Now, what if you gave money to an irrevocable trust and you had a stroke 3 years in or 2 years in? And every situation is going to be different, but there may be ways to terminate an irrevocable trust. But the key with an irrevocable trust is you have to trust the family members that you're giving the money to. So we cannot say that enough. So essentially, there's always options to protect assets with a good elder law attorney. Every situation is going to be different. So the next question we're going to have is this, is since real estate value is unlimited for a married couple, can you upgrade your primary residence after the need for long-term care occurs and then maybe borrow against the equity? So the basic answer is, for a married couple, that is very possible. So let's just say, for instance, and I'm not going to say that you would really want to do this, but for discussion purposes for the question, it says, my wife is getting sick or my husband is getting sick. Can we protect money by locking away into a more expensive home? And I'm not going to say that's the best way to protect assets. There are other legal ways to protect assets, but essentially that is a possibility of locking money away into the home. That is generally not available for a single person for the most part. Medicaid is wise to that. So sometimes people say, my mom's in the nursing home. Can we go buy a $500,000 home and protect that from the nursing home? And the basic answer is no. Medicaid's wise to that. It's going to be a little bit different for a married couple. And again, I wouldn't necessarily say that you'd want to do that, but that's within the realm of possibility, and borrowing against the equity is possible as well. Like I say, that's a great plan, but that's certainly possible in the right scenario. Medicaid is not really going to care because the spouse at home is allowed to have a home of unlimited value, to your question mark. How long does it take to file a Medicaid application and get approval? Does our law firm help with the Medicaid application? Medicaid application, roughly speaking, takes around 45 to 60 days for the most part. So for example, mom is in the nursing home, you're trying to get Medicaid. A good application, roughly speaking, takes 45 to 60 days. It is retroactive to the month that you apply. So for instance, if you are in the nursing home in January and then rehab dollars quit paying in February, then as long as you apply for Medicaid in February and are below the asset and income level, then you can get Medicaid for February, even though it may take 45 to 60 days to get. So for instance, you apply in February, then you can get Medicaid for all of February. And even if it takes 2 months for Medicaid to go through, then you're going to Medicaid that will pay for February, March, and April in that given example. And does our law firm help with the Medicaid application process? Yes, absolutely. We're glad to have the opportunity to help and see what can we do. We're glad to review your specific situation and help and see what if anything needs to be done from a legal perspective to help with the Medicaid application. What we always say is there's no such thing as an easy Medicaid application. And I'm saying that because it's true. We've literally had Medicaid applications where mom had $1,000 and there was nothing fun, no interesting, there's no asset protection, the income was below the income cap, and still Medicaid will issue denials because we're dealing with the bureaucracy, which is not always that easy to navigate. But we're glad to help out in your specific situation because we do Medicaid applications, and I've got a great, wonderful team that can help us out. One last question is, following the execution of an irrevocable trust, can the trustee distribute more than the income without exceeding Medicaid limits? And so, for instance, if you did set up an irrevocable trust, the key with an irrevocable trust is whoever sets it up cannot be the beneficiary of principal. So you never say that the trust can or can never give money back to the person who set it up. So in our situation with Sally earlier, she's trying to give away money to protect it from the nursing home. A good attorney like myself would say that you could never give money from that irrevocable trust back to the person who set it up. And there was actually a case in Massachusetts where the family did that. They set up the irrevocable trust. They gave money from the irrevocable trust back to mom. Medicaid reviewed that when they applied for mom's Medicaid, and they said, wait a minute, you're giving money from this irrevocable trust to mom all this time. They considered it mom's money, and the irrevocable trust was essentially a sham. So we would never recommend giving money from the trust back to mom. And then we had one more question that snuck in. It seems a married couple would make sense to keep assets in individual names as opposed to joint, since then you only have to navigate with half the value, not all of it. And the basic answer is no. Some states do, and I don't even understand this because Florida is going to be, I know the Florida rules backwards and forwards, but essentially Medicaid just looks at the joint, they look at the assets, whether it's joint or singular, and there is no extra step in separating the assets at all. Now, some states may do that, and I don't know the rules for any other states, but essentially you don't get ahead at all by separating the assets out for a married couple. They just say you're allowed to have $156,000. But I will say, anonymous attendee question, some states do separate the assets out. I don't even understand it because Florida doesn't do that. But that's just not something that's really done in the state of Florida. There's no advantage to separating the assets out. And what is a supplemental needs quest? A supplemental needs trust is also known as a special needs trust. And those are generally, they're not that used that often in Medicaid planning. So sometimes people say, hey, my mom's in a nursing home. Can't we lock money away in a special needs trust? And the basic answer is not really. Special needs trust planning is certainly helpful in the right situation, but we don't really use it that much for asset protection for heirs, which is a lot of what we really do. We protect money for heirs for an inheritance purpose, and generally special needs trust planning is, for the most part, not an asset protection device. So again, sometimes people say, my mom's in the nursing home. Can't we put money into some type of special needs trust or supplemental needs trust? And the basic answer is not really. Special needs trust planning is useful in certain scenarios, but for the most part, special needs trust planning or supplemental needs trust, they're the one and the same. Generally speaking, are not a way to protect assets from the nursing home. And Natalie, thank you very much. Thank you. It's very glad to be here. It's great to have an opportunity to have those attend, and are glad to be here. So we hope you learned a lot from the situation. And those are all the questions. A lot of good questions. We'll write these down, and maybe I'll answer some of these in the future. So thank you for attending our live webinar, and we hope you learned a lot. And again, we're going to send you a free copy of my book. We're going to send you the presentation for this seminar. And if you'd like to schedule an appointment with me, then I'm glad to sit down and review your situation and see what we can do to help. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time. We hope we learned a lot, and we share the information if you learned something too. So again, thank you very much, and you have a nice evening.